Jonathan Peck writes, "Hey Collider crew, big fan of your show. I have never missed an episode. My
Me
question
either.
surrounds Brad Bird. This guy has put on A-plus films like Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and even his first live-action film, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, until Tomorrowland came out, which I was excited about at the time. It got mixed reviews. I know his next film would be The Incredibles 2, which I am excited about. My point is, should Brad Bird direct a live-action film again after The Incredibles 2?
Absolutely, he should. Absolutely. And here's the thing about Tomorrowland is one of these films that had massive expectation and didn't live up to the expectation. And when it doesn't live up to the expectation, we sometimes interpret that as poor. Look, was Tomorrowland the film I wanted it to be? No. But was it a bad film? I still contend that no, it was not a bad film. It just didn't come anywhere near the potential that movie had. That movie looked gangbusters. The trailers I thought were fantastic. The cast was great. The premise sounded incredible. You had Brad Bird directing it. I mean, this thing was positioned to be like in our top 10 favorite films of the year kind of thing. What did it end up being? I remember Christian and I did a review for it here, and we both gave it a 7 out of 10. So, but I mean, that's not as good as it should have been. It should have been a 9. It should have been an 8.5. Ends up being 7, which is still not bad. So, in my opinion, Brad Bird is still batting 1,000, to be honest with you, because I still do not consider Tomorrowland a failure. I thought it was a disappointment because it was nowhere near as good as I was hoping it would be. But when you really sit back and just look at it on its own merits for what it is, forget expectation, it's not a bad little movie. It just could have been much more. So understanding, as you point out in your email, that even before that, he did that Mission Impossible film, which we all agree he crushed. Totally crushed that. So I would love to see him go back and forth between live action and animation. I really hope after Incredibles 2, and please God get that done, then I want to see him do another live action film. Schnepp, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the only disappointment that I have, I think he's an incredible director, is that The Incredibles 2 isn't coming out until 2019. Did you?
Yeah,
that's too long, man. Come on. So instead of him directing a live action thing after, he could fit in at least 3 movies beforehand. You gotta have a lot of time.
I hope he's recording Craig T. Nelson's lines now.
Yeah, get everybody
case.
recorded. I'm sure most animations, get everybody in the can. You got all that time to do animation and go make 3 more movies. I disagree a little bit with you. I think Tomorrowland was like 3 different movies combined into one. And those 3 movies, one of them sucked, and the other one was good, and the other one was incredible. So there was it was very uneven in tone, and I loved certain parts of it, and then other parts were like, what the hell is going on? And then other parts I'm like, stop this movie, So it kept going like that for me. Is that all the director's fault? No, it's the writer, the producer, the whole team. They weren't able to craft it so it felt like one cohesive film. Henceforth, it was a failure critically and financially. It didn't connect with people, and all of us wanted to love Tomorrowland. I know that for a fact. It's wow, it's not only could it become a brand new cool ride, but I just thought even the design sensibility of Tomorrowland was all over the place. Some of it was incredibly cool and retro and this, but then other parts of it were why are those giant robots that look like toys in there? And there's just certain things, I would say see it. It's not a horrible film. And some parts are so incredibly inventive and fun. It's definitely not don't avoid it. It's one of those, it's just not it isn't Mission Impossible 4. It isn't the Iron Giant. It isn't even Ratatouille, which all of us forgot he made because we love Ratatouille, and we were just talking about that. It was
so good.
We had to double check. He was yeah, he directed. I was like, what? And he's there's 2 directors. He came in and kind of helped shape it towards the end. So he definitely directed it or redirected or however you want to call it. But his imprint when it's on a film is big and massive and vast. Maybe not so much so with Tomorrowland. It's just a little bit of didn't hit it out of the park. It's third base or something. So. But, I can't wait for Incredibles 2. I say get him in on as many projects as possible,
Yeah, I mean, I want to see him stick with live action, actually, because we know we're getting The Incredibles 2 at some point. So I want to see what he can do, because there's a lot of great filmmaking in Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Now, the end of it, this is how I felt watching Tomorrowland. It's my throat got froggy. I got emotional because it was a different movie. It was almost like the studio came in and said, hey, you know what? We want to tell the kids to recycle instead of close out the movie that we had. So, that's my take on it.